Hi everyone and welcome to another WARNO video. Today we're going to take a look at the new maps in a bit more detail, especially the nighttime one and the obvious rework of Geisa. Now before I continue with the video, I would just like to take a moment to step aside and offer my sincere condolences to the royal family and all of the other members of the Commonwealth, as sadly yesterday Queen Elizabeth died at 96 years old. She was the monarch of the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth for 70 years, 7 decades, longer than many of us have been alive. And regardless of how you may view the royal family, myself certainly not being a particular royalist, at the end of the day she gave her time to public service beyond anything else, and has steered both the United Kingdom and in some ways the world through both good and bad times, and has shaped the world we live in, as can be noted by the outpouring of condolences and speeches from leaders across the world, even from those corners of the world we may not be on the best terms with at the current time, which just goes to show her personal impact beyond that of the United Kingdom and its government. And while I understand many of you from other countries may not fully grasp or understand the reason for this message, or indeed the reason for the outpouring of support, I think it was wonderfully phrased by Grigory, who is obviously not British, who will have appeared in some of my videos, etc. He phrased it as history happens, and I suppose in many ways that is what this is. It is a moment in history, and one of the poignant moments in history that marks a significant shift in the UK, perhaps more than anywhere else. So we take this time to reflect on what has been and what is yet to come. But I thank you for bearing with me during this message. Now we will proceed back to our regularly scheduled programming. So, I've picked the British, for obvious reasons I'm sure, just so we can have a look at the units in the night time. I'm just going to launch battle. I won't actually cap anything to run the timer out, but I thought first we'd just have a look at everything in the dark. This is the first nighttime map, as it were, that they have put into WARNO. So I'm going to immediately say I zoomed into this before I started the video, and I'm immediately disappointed. But let's start here. So if we zoom in, I mean, it's lovely to see these vehicles. They don't have any lights on. Now, I realise that for reasons of wanting to be hidden, they might not have any lights on, but I don't know, I kind of wish they had some lights, some headlights or something. It's a little bit disappointing, to be honest. I don't know if they plan to add that, but I mean, if you're going to have nighttime maps, as nice as the aesthetic looks, it's nighttime, some lights would be preferable. I'd also say, I immediately assumed that if this was nighttime, I would zoom in and see some lights on in the buildings, you know, the windows lit up even if there aren't street lights, which obviously there aren't any street lights in these towns for some reason. Oh wait, no, I tell a lie, there are some street lights here, look. But none of it's lit up. I don't know if they're intending to, you know, light these up or add any lights. I realise it's a purely aesthetic thing to some extent, but I feel like if you're going to bother having nighttime maps, guys, you kind of need to add some lights. Because I like where you've gone with it, but if you're just making the lighting of the area dark and not sticking some lights on, I don't know. Considering the amount of detail in this game and the detail on all the buildings and everything else, a few lights really wouldn't go amiss. I mean, even if you say that it's been evacuated, there's no one there, I'm sure some people would have left the lights on. And I don't think the military will be running around turning the lights off. Out of pure interest, of course, let's put some infantry in a building and just see if they light up. I mean, I haven't played this map, so I don't know. But I will put some infantry in these buildings and just see if the lights go on. I'm just really curious if there's any kind of mechanic here that will turn on the lights, if they've even considered that. I'm hoping it's something that's in the back of their mind. I realise it's not the most urgent thing to add in, you know, a game like this. Yeah, there's no lights or anything. Well, it's kind of disappointing. I like the fact they've gone for a nighttime map, but I kind of wish they'd added lights to the units, or the units and the buildings, to be honest, and the street lights, and I don't know how much resources that would use, to be honest. Maybe a bit. I mean, it depends how you make. I mean, you could do it without shadows, I guess. So it was just a light source that didn't have any effect on shadows and stuff. That would use less resources. I don't know. I don't know. I love the idea of having a dark nighttime map, but I think if you're going to do that, preferably you want to have lights in a game that's going to be as detailed as this. It's a personal preference. Maybe people don't care. I just, you know, I kind of wish it was there. I was expecting there to be lights, so I'm a little bit disappointed. But that's not to say it's a bad map. So let's have a little look at it. So, in terms of points, there's a nice spread and a variety of sizes. I'm just having a look at positioning and things. It's very hard to decide where the exact middle of the map is. And I sort of look at this point and just wonder, is it more to one side of the map than the other? I think it is slightly more to this side of the map. So it's easier for this side to get into it, I think. Whereas most of the points look... Whereas you see, this is further forward. Bravo is further forward than Lima. Is it? If we hit C, we can see the range tool. So that's 1,000, that's 2,000. The next line that you can't really see, that's 2,500. So this is more than 2,500. So it's probably more like 3,000. And then over here, maybe they're actually pretty similar. So they're about the same. And then, if we say from the edge of there to the edge of this one, that's another 2,500. And this side is, yeah, it's closer. Very much closer. Yeah, so this is about, what, at least 500 meters. At least 500 meters, should we say, closer to this side. So I'm not sure why that's the case, but this alpha point is closer to that side. It'd actually be easier if I just had a unit there and then used that to draw a line. Fine. So points aren't necessarily perfectly balanced on any map, to be fair. They try to make them a little bit asymmetrical. This looks a bit more balanced here, doesn't it? This one looks a bit closer to this one. This one's a bit closer to this one. Again, we can measure that. How close are they? About 1,250-ish, give or take. Yeah. And then this side, yeah, about the same, 1,250. And then I assume distance away. I see, this is the dedication I'm going to with this map. I'm just really curious because it's something I never sit and do on a lot of the maps, is measure them exactly. So, 1,007... No. 1,400 maybe? And this side, probably about the same. So I feel like this side's a bit more balanced. The center, that looks pretty central in the map to me, golf. Yeah, that's probably pretty central. November's quite a big area. Foxtrot's a lot smaller. I mean, size of the points at the back don't really matter. Most of the time, you're not going to lose them. It's going to be fighting over these points in the middle. But beyond that, it's nice to see there's plenty of roads through some of the forests now. There's roads through this forest. There's roads through here. There's like paths through there, but they're not roads, I don't think. No. These are all roads, though, coming from the edge of the map. No roads in here. No roads through this. So you're stuck to coming through these roads to get places. No roads through this area. There is a dirt... Oh, this is a dirt track, actually. So that thing that looks like it's got trees next to it. So there might be one at this side of the map. Sorry, I'm moving everything around a bit. No, I think that's just gaps. I don't think that's actually roads. And then over here, just some roads coming in again. Some roads through that little forest area. Nothing through there. So, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of forest on here. There's roads where there needs to be roads for stuff coming onto the map, of course. So that's fair enough. I think in terms of positioning, I'd love to know the times. So I can bring in units here. So what I want to do is let's bring in a fast vehicle. Infantry in the rover. The rover's going to be pretty fast, I think. So I want one to come all the way over here, and I know it's not going to come in quickly, but we'll get one over there, and then one over here. And then when they're in position, we will do a little test to see how quickly you can get from the start to golf. But the map itself, I like the layout. I like this nice big open areas for some tank battles and what is going to be a lot of ATGM battles. There's not a lot of cover. There's not a lot of like solid hedgerows. There's some back here. These, no, these aren't. This one, yes. I think that one is, if you can hover over it just right. Yeah, there you go. But this one, I doubt it. They're too small. Did that for a second? No. That one. There's some lengthways, but not so many across. I think this one is, yeah. I feel like getting around the sides of these points will be beneficial. And this one here, probably the same. I feel like the central point, getting around the sides, getting into this forest area here, will be very beneficial. And again here, if you can get into this forest and shoot across the point, you're going to cause issues for the person at that side. This side, you're a bit further away with this tree line, and it's very small, so I feel like the people at this side won't be under quite so much threat. But it's got a nice mix of open areas, a nice mix of towns and things, and the towns kind of spread out, so there's some at both sides of the point, some at both sides of the point here. This one, I feel like this one's quite heavily in the favour of the people at that side, because they've got all of those trees and they've got a building there, and there's nothing at this side except maybe a couple of slips of trees. Yeah. Whereas here, both teams will have buildings. So that's not a very balanced point, Kilo. This one's pretty balanced. This one's reasonably balanced. The buildings are a bit closer to this end, but I don't think that's too bad. This one, I feel like it might be slightly in Alpha's favour if they can control that forest from this side. Then it's sort of to the favour of these people, sorry. Yeah, I mean, that's all pretty reasonable. So the only real question would be the fact that Alpha is slightly closer to this side, but perhaps the reason for that is those trees there. And the fact that they can shoot across this way. And if you knock the 500 meters off that, then technically everything in this side could be in range of long-range ATGMs or something. So I get, yeah, there's a balance to it, isn't there? I think if we get him to this one, because I feel like this one is going to be the one that will come in at, and then we'll just set them both off at the same time. Never watched them turn around. He literally turns on the spot. Oh dear. Right, okay. I didn't realise they did that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So, to the middle. Who gets there first? They should both be starting on the road, and they're off. The race is on. The Rovers. They both have the same speed. They both had a similar starting position. They both might run out of fuel before they get there, especially this one that I sent all the way across the map. I didn't really think of that. Can you feel the tension? Who's going to get there first? Feel like it's going to be close, to be fair. It's like watching a really, really slow race. You know, I think the one on the left is going to get there first, or it seemed that way, but I don't know. That road's a bit straighter, the one on the left. So it is ahead, I think. Yeah, it's definitely ahead. I think it's on a straighter road. But it's going to be pretty close, considering. But it will win. Yeah, the one on the left wins because the road is straighter, but it's not terrible. But they would be in a position to fire at those guys coming in to the point if they were, you know, equally matched. That's interesting, though. It's pretty tight. It's certainly an improvement on Black Forest, put it that way. Okay, fine. I mean, it's a very standard frontline type map where you're going to have a front line running across the middle. There's no like obvious things at the edge where you're going to try and go round the back behind the enemy. You can probably slip through between some of these points, certainly utilizing the forest around there, but mostly it's going to be a front line across the middle of the map. Simple as that. Right, let's hop in and have a look at the other new map, which I have played on in 10v10. It was quite fun. Okay, everyone, welcome to Crown. This was the other new map, and this has a ridiculous amount of points on. Absolutely ridiculous amount. I mean, look at them all. And this is hectic in a 10v10, because for the first time in a 10v10 in WARNO, I genuinely felt the need to cover multiple points. Like, I was in the first game. If we turn all the way around, sorry for the spin, I was here with Grigory. Protoss was on the other team, and Vulcan was on the other team over here and here. And I ended up sending units here to bomb Protoss, here to cap and defend Kilo, and still obviously had all my main units here. So it's because there are so many points, you're always going to have a weak link on the team. You will have to spread yourself about here if you're a reasonable player. I'm not an expert, I'm not a, I'm not a pro, but if you're a reasonable player, you're going to end up spreading yourself about a bit. And you need to, because of the sheer amount of points there are here. But it was such a fun map to play. I'm really, really impressed with this one because of the variety of combat areas. So I love, okay, yes, you've got, it's lovely flat terrain, most of it. You've got some hills, but lovely flat terrain, lots of roads going through it all the way across the map. But what you've got is these little villages and towns just dotted throughout it, little buildings along the roads as there probably would be in real life, because you go down a road and you'll see houses at the side of it. They're not just all empty roads. There's something to some of them. There's buildings outside the point, so it's not just all in the points. It's not really focused down. You can spread your defenses out and move up and get around the points is the other thing. So here there's some huge gaps between the points. You can sort of swing around the sides, get into them from the back and the other side. One of our guys went all the way through the middle of the map in one game and swung around the back. I think he went through Tango, capped it, and then went to Zulu. So, there is a lot of options because of the size of this map. You can't necessarily swing right around the edge, but here, this was great. I was in all the way up to here and could see Charlie, and they had defenses in these buildings here, so I couldn't easily push Charlie because these were full of infantry and tanks and stuff. But it was nice that they weren't just stuck in Charlie with me being able to approach it easily. They actually had defenses further outside of it because of the way they've positioned this stuff. So I was quite impressed. I like the fact that a point just doesn't cover the whole town. It covers some of the town. Or it covers an open area. I think there's, you know, Tango is pretty open. There's like the edge of a building there. This was where I was in one of the games. I pushed up here. And I captured Tango. And then, rather than stop there, I managed to get up here before they did. And I filled all of this. And then I filled Romeo as well, because they hadn't gone into Romeo. So I had infantry and stuff in here. I had infantry and stuff in here. And in here. And it was just a case of holding back the tide, but being really far forward. And once again, I was sending units over to this far side of the map to try and defend, because they weren't doing great. But it's really nice just that there's a variety. I don't know how to explain it other than that I like variety. I don't like when you just have points where there's buildings at either side and you each have a command in the buildings, or there's a bit of forest at either side and you each have a command in the forest. There's more variety on this map, which means you have to rethink your tactics. Like, look at this point, Tango. Where do you put your command in there? Where is safe? Is that a tiny slither of forest there, which the edge may be in the point, so you might be able to put something in there, but it's going to be pretty easily visible by any recon at that side in any of those buildings. So you have to hold those buildings if you want to hold this point, really. Borderline, you might be able to get a command infantry in there to, you know, just be sat in the edge of the building. That might count, but one artillery piece is going to cause you so many issues. One bombing run. It's going to be obvious where it is. It's either going to be in that corner or there. So you really have to secure the area around the point, which just, it changes your playstyle from just being defensive to having to be slightly aggressive before you can be defensive. So I like that aspect. I like that it's forcing you to do things differently. And I think that's good for people learning the game as well, because you can get very set in doing things a specific way unless the game can also force you to play differently and your opponent's forcing you to play differently. Another point I like, and this is on, you know, a few maps where you have forests down either side of a point, and it encourages you to swing around the back of the point through the forest, and equally you need to defend the forest against the assault. So you have to play differently than just, you know, having an open bit of terrain like this one where you can just heavily defend your side and then they have to push through open terrain. I mean, that's easy to defend. And equally here, you know, you're going to put your stuff in here and be shooting across here. So it's a lot easier to defend. But yeah, I admire this map for the variety of points. The number of points is crazy, but it does work. It does force you to be in multiple places. But, you know, this is a 10v10. There's no looking at this and going, the best strategy for this map is to do this, this, and this. Because in a 10v10, you're not going to get that, because you're going to have people of very different experience levels. Maybe if you could man an entire team with very experienced players, fine. Then you might get away with doing a proper strategy, but I really like this map. Really, really like this one. Let's have a look at the final map, which is a rework of Geisa. Geisa is a nice map, and I'm pleased it's had a rework. And here we are, Geisa, the rework. Look at all the roads. I really appreciate that. I like the fact they put a road through past the tower as well. Yeah, that's great. Look at that. It just opens up these points massively. You know, it means that you can bring in vehicles and stuff from the side, and yeah. Really, really appreciate that. I mean, this was a good map. I've enjoyed playing this in 10v10. You know, it's great fun bashing through these forests and having little fights. Love the fact they've put a road in there as well. Just joins up those two sides a little bit more. Because this was just like a mishmash of infantry and everything pushing through forests. Trying to get round behind the enemy and stuff. Yeah, I really like this rework. I think they've done a really good job. They should be very pleased with that. I can't wait to see Black Forest and its rework and all the roads they're putting in there. That should be really good as well. But yeah, look at all of these little roads. It may seem like nothing, but it's such an important change because it completely opens up this half of the map. Because it means you're going to dare to send tanks and vehicles and other things through, but equally, the enemy could have little, you know, infantry squads just sat here. And as you go past, they blow up your vehicles. And just thinking about, you know, the squads that have twin RPGs or APLAS launchers or whatever else. You know, all of those types of squads are going to be great in this environment because they're going to be able to run around from road to road and just pop vehicles and stuff that are coming through. It just adds another element to the gameplay. So I'm really pleased they've done that. Anything that gives you another thing that you can think, oh, I could put troops here in a defensive position and destroy incoming vehicles. And it's, again, I feel like for newer players, you're going to learn from that. In the sense that if you see other people doing it, you're going to learn from it. And you're going to learn to do it yourself. And it's something I'll comment on if you notice it when I'm doing the casts of the tournament. If one of the guys sends a squad round the back of the enemy to do that to their supply lines. It's a really good idea, but not many people do it. And this sort of teaches that that's feasible and a good idea because you have the option to block off these supply lines quite easily. And quite sneakily, because it's very hard to defend such a wide area of forest, basically. You can sneak infantry past. So I really like that aspect. I like being sneaky with units. I used to do it a lot in Wargame Red Dragon, and I haven't done it a lot recently, to be honest. I stopped doing it quite as much. But I loved being sneaky and getting a couple of squads of recon round behind the enemy, spotting their base, doing some damage, maybe killing a couple of CVs. It's another element to the gameplay. It's something fun to do, and it's really annoying. It drives you mad when someone does it to you, but it's equally quite fun when you're doing it to someone else. So it opens up more elements of gameplay. So I'm really pleased that they've gone back and done that. They should be pretty happy with that. It just means there's also, you know, it's a little bit more balanced in terms of how close roads and stuff are for each of the sides. But yeah, really like that. Good change, Eugene. Good change. And that brings us to the end of the new maps, really. Everything else has been in the game for a little while. But I'm pleased with the new maps. I like the designs. I wish the nighttime one Rift had lights. I'm hoping they will look at that, and it's something that they plan to add. Because I feel like if you're going to have the nighttime aesthetic, you kind of need to add lights to stuff. But we'll see. Maybe they just haven't even considered that. I don't know. It might be too much work for them. They're a small team these days. I can understand that. But it is a little bit disappointing there were no lights. But thanks for watching, everyone. Please do like, share, subscribe. Have a fantastic weekend. Maybe I'll see you online for some WARNO at some point.